Сабақ арасында фантамен үзіліс жаса. Эксперимент жасады, үзіліс бойы көңіл көтер. Шаттық формуласы Фанта плюс әлдену. Достарыңмен ойнаған сәттерің тарихта қалады. Үзіліс математикасы оңай. Әлденіп ал, фантамен рахаттан. Қане, демалатын кез келді. Фантамен әлденіп ал. Сабақ арасында фантамен әлденіп ал. Көңіл көтер, қайтала.
Олар жайлы фильм түсірілеміз жоқ па? Кітаптардағы немесе комикстердегі қаһармандар қатарынан табыла ма? Оның супер костюмын біреу армандай ма? Оның деген сөздері қанатты сөзге айнала ма? Оларға бұның ешқайсысы маңызды емес.
Мынау сізге.
Оларға әлемді сәлде болса жақсарту маңызды. Міне, осындай адамдарға жусан керек. Жусан қосымша сен үшін, мүмкіндіктер сен үшін.
Сделай перерыв между занятиями с Фанта. Проведи эксперимент и развлекайся весь перерыв. Вот формула веселья. Фанта плюс перекусы. Ваши игры с друзьями войдут в историю. Математика перерыва проста. Получай удовольствие от Фанта и перекусов. Давай, уже пора передохнуть. Перекуси с Фанта. Перекуси с Фанта между занятиями. Повеселись, повтори.
Им не важно, снимут про них фильм или нет. Станут ли они героями книг или хотя бы комиксов? Мечтает ли кто-то про его суперкостюм? И с какой вероятностью его станет крылатой фразой? Им не важно.
Это вам.
Им важно делать мир немного лучше. Вот для кого нужен Жусан. Жусан. Приложение для тебя. Возможности для тебя.
The Kensi Folin Kazakh Agritechnical University, the general partner of this event, is hosting this year's festival. For 65 years of its activity, KATU has trained more than 70,000 specialists, successfully working in all major sectors of the agrotechnical sphere. Among the ranks of our graduates are deputies of the Parliament of the Republic of Kazakhstan, heads of leading enterprises, nationally known public figures, and athletes. Today, our university is one of the leaders of the national higher education on the national rating of the demand for higher education institutions of Kazakhstan, from the IAAR on the quality of educational programs. And also, KATU is the base university for digitalization of agricultural production in Kazakhstan. Our partners include more than 160 world-renowned leading research universities and research centers. Among them are the University of California at Davis, which is the second highest institution in the world of the agricultural industry, Agroparitech University in Europe, and many others. Today, KATU has started a dual diploma education in 3 specialties jointly with the University of Milan in Italy, which gives our graduates the opportunity to receive diplomas from 2 countries. Our university offers the opportunity to study at bachelor's, master's, and doctorates. Currently, the number of students exceeds 12,000, of whom 70% are studying under the state grants. There is a full opportunity to study in the military department. All necessary conditions are created for them to be qualified specialists. The university aims for a seamless experience in any format of education. For students, there is a printing office and a library equipped with an electronic system that has more than 1.5 million book collections.
One of the large multidisciplinary education institutions of Kazakhstan with a deep history is Awezov University. That is, here students and undergraduates acquire practical working skills. In other words, this is a mini copy of a large production and dairy plant. Within the framework of the program of scholarship academic mobility and double-degree education, the university cooperates with more than 170 foreign universities. 150 students a year study for the academic mobility at leading universities in the world. The digitalization process has affected all spheres of society, including education. At Awezov University, innovations are intensively introduced into the education system, and 3D, VR, STEM technologies are widely used. The IT Center provides consulting to teachers of schools in Shymkent on robotics, provides material resources to students in the Laboratory of Robotics and Mechatronics at the Laboratory of Mathematical and 3D Modeling, and provides material resources of the IT Center to students and teachers of the Awezov University. In Student Design Bureau, students and teachers prepare scientific projects for participation in regional, national, and international competitions. Students of clubs and Student Design Bureau develop robotic systems for participation in competitions and competitions in robotics. The material and technical base of the university consists of 10 educational buildings of a modern standard, 6 student dormitories and 2 sports complexes. For the comprehensive development of students, more than 30 public, political and cultural organizations function. Our university that has united history and modernity today prepares more than 27,000 students and invites to take your best.
Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. Indeed, it is a very challenging topic, building an educated nation. To be able to deliver a thought process within 30 minutes, but I will try and do my best. What is education? So I thought if I get the perspective right, I would be able to then do justice for the next 28 minutes. So it's basically from whatever dictionaries, examples you want to listen to or read about, it's preparing a person to face everyday life. Learning, acquiring knowledge, skills and habits is basically what nations need to do and educate people. And if we bear this in mind, everyday life can be summarized in what is the knowledge that you have, what are the skills that you have, and what are the habits that you have to live as a culture, as a society that would take you as an educated nation. Different definitions are there for different nations. We can see how India and China have progressed, how various nations have progressed in the past, where they stand. The Islamic world had a golden era, why and where we left out, and what we didn't pursue. I can go on that aspect, but seeing that we have limited time, I would jump straight into what are the things that happen in history that change the perspective of how you look at things around you. If we look at the history, it was meteor hits that got the dinosaurs away from us. It was the earthquakes and changes in the global ecosystem that have the world where it is today, supplemented with the population growth and other things that are happening. The era that nobody expected with one event, and that was COVID, it has completely changed our lives, and the world now looks at things very differently. During COVID, 4.57 billion people were on the net, as an increase of 7%. More than 2/3 of the world was using the mobile phone. This shows you two very distinct aspects, that humans are born and they can adopt themselves to transitions and changes around them, and will use whatever is the best skill that they have or technology that was at their disposal. They started using that, and the whole perspective changed. I mean, this lecture series in itself is a classical example. Had it been in the good old days, we would have been doing it differently, but now it's being live streamed because this is the new norm and this is how life is. You take that further, it completely changed the following things. It shifted towards localization. So we are very much connected to the world, but we are doing a lecture series here at Comstech, connecting to Kazakhstan and the rest of the world. and in collaboration, but technology is allowing us to do that. Digital obviously got a real push, 2/3 using mobile phones, everything going digital. Cash has become king because COVID also hit the global economy by $30 trillion. And that deficit is very visible now in every economy around the world. It also moved towards variable cost models. So whoever can provide whatever, may it be Amazon, Alibaba, whoever provides the best service at the best price gets the business. Obviously, looking at how the various versions of COVID were coming in, and then obviously supply chain, because you needed to be positioned in such a way that not only did you produce the product correctly, but you had a mechanism of getting that product to the individual in a manner that was the most efficient and most economical. And obviously building agility. Now, building agility meaning that if, for instance, today I was trying to come to this conference and 3 roads that I used were container blocked. If I had given up, I could have gone back and said, I'm sorry, I don't know what is going on in the city, so I'm going back. But then you get so tuned to the city being in the manner that it is, and COVID did this in a different way. Today, our political scenario is doing it in a different way. We still made it, we were here, we started on time. So agility is the next very key area. I love this quote because if we are to survive in this global community of 8 billion people already, could touch 11 billion, then we have to really think, because COVID at least has taught us to rethink. And when we rethink, it is learning the knowledge, the skills and the habits. And that is where I think nations should start looking at education also, because the previous models for education may not be very relevant in the days to come. The next generation is very much what is fueling tech, is fueling the next generation, which I call Society 5.0. The world calls it Society 5.0, and it is completely technology-driven society. We know that the microchip world is now changing. We are adding 12 months, and there are certain areas where we're doing it in 6 months. This in itself is such a revolutionary change. One of my learned speakers after me is going to be talking about AI. Dr. Saab is going to be talking about research and how we convert research into products. This is an area which I think is the biggest challenge that humanity faces. So do we have educated people, children, students who can adopt to this agility and understand this fast-moving change? In the 21st century, obviously technology, like I said, is going to play a very pivotal role. Then comes the quantum computing that we're working on. It is changing how satellites will be working, because there is a transition and a combination of, if you take Elon Musk's new satellite system that is coming in, you can get 100 megabit anywhere in the world. Computing in itself, Web 3.0 will take the world in a different way, and so on and so forth. So microchip will be playing a very key role. In the 5th wave, we also need to be very clear how population, because if you talk about culture, habits, transitions, this is also something that I feel we need to look at for our future generations, because the way we were brought up, the way we were trained, the way we were educated is very Western education. And will that be the future focus? I will just share with you. Data. If we are going to be the 5th largest nation in the world, we will be producing data because we will have the skill sets and the technology to do that. How do we translate that data into useful, meaningful products or experiences, knowledge, and our skill sets is also a very serious area that we need to look at. And our students need to be aware of these things. And obviously technology. If we do not keep abreast with technology, one is ourselves and one is the nation. If these 3 key areas are not looked at, I think building a nation and educating a nation is going to be a serious challenge. When I say the sphere of influence will change, currently, if you look at half the world, if you take the population approximately lives in this part of the world, which is China, India, Pakistan, and the rest of Indonesia. This, in the next 72 years, by 2030, will change, and in the next 72 years, when I say 21st century, will dramatically change. Africa will be 40% of the world. Asia will be 42% of the world. That's 82% of the world right there in front of you. If we take the 40% of the world, I can assure you that the way we have all been educated, and I'll include Dr. Shahid in that, we hardly know anything about Africa. And if that is what is going to be the future market, if that is going to be the future culture, if that is going to be the future consumer, if that is going to be the future of where the raw materials are going to come from, we then need to be very clear that we need to start looking at it and understanding it. The world by 2030 will be looking at something like this. India will be the largest nation in the world. Then it'll be China, US, and Pakistan at number 6 will come up to number 5 by 2100. This will dramatically change also further. If you take the next 72 years, China will not be where it is. It will fall down to a position even lower than number 2. It is going to lose half its population. And the country that is going to come up is right now number 5 will be Nigeria. Nigeria will be the second largest country in the world. And there is not much that we know about Nigeria. And if that is how the dynamics of population will change, then the know-how needs to be understood and educated like that. In the Muslim world, we will be one of the largest countries in 2030, but by 2100, it will be Nigeria, which will be up there. But these will be the 10 countries in the OIC. If we have to understand this, this will have a very serious impact on the world also. The world in 2030, 26.4% of the world will be Muslims, will be the OIC countries. And that is where I think another angle needs to be understood, that how do we populate the global mind with our thought processes and cultures that gets the adoption, and also internally, because religion is a very serious motivator on how you do things, how you classify things. And this is another area which we need to look at very carefully. One other area which I find that we need to understand if we are to educate the future nation is that the global world by 2040, 65% of it will be urban. That means that all the models that we have today will change. When I say that, I mean what you look at today as the villages, the towns, the intermediary cities, and the primary cities. This whole structure on which we were educated was an industrial-based structure where bifurcation of the labor forces or the people who work was done like this. Today, with connectivity, this whole wealth model has changed. So it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter what you do. If you do not have the appropriate skills, people will not get to you. How they get to you and how you transport your goods is a secondary issue, which I will address. But the wealth cycle is changing. And if we do not adopt to this understanding, then we are not educating and being fair on our future generations. So in the next normal, what are the things that are really going to focus on? We know through COVID that we have started buying online, so that has increased. 20 to 60% of the Z generation is buying online. They hardly want to go to a store. So your economics and your basics are changing. There is a new pattern of behavior. People are more comfortable working from home now than when you tell them that they have to go back to a 9-to-5 kind of job. They will give you excuses that the fuel price has gone up or the city is like in an unrest, but the behavior has changed. We have switched and accelerated and there is a digital consumer now, and the use of mobile phones and digital medium is going up tremendously. As a workforce, the desire to work remotely is unbelievable. Now try and position the 8.8 million expatriates that we have as Pakistanis working abroad, how they feel. And if their jobs get insecure, that's about $22 billion coming to Pakistan, which is insecure. So they need to be reskilled. Regulatory aspects, I think Dr. Mahmood would understand that regulatory aspects, if we do not move in legislation and an understanding in policy level, how to adopt to these changes in a pace that they are happening in, we have a serious problem because we will be non-competitive. And that is something we cannot expect and work. And obviously, when the whole world will shift from its normal that we used to see in the previous years and is going to be 65% urbanized, it is going to be, we are adding 1 billion people every 12 years now. We were adding, like the first billion were added over billions of years, and then now we add 1 billion people every 12 years. Earth's resources and how we share them, utilize them, sustainably manage them is the next big challenge. And that obviously generates pandemics like the COVID. So how to tackle those and be prepared for those is the other challenge. So skills that will be required, obviously, we will have to understand protected industries, how to stay competitive, because where is the raw material? How do we do that? What are the jobs? What are the human resource requirements? How do we cultivate that mindset? How do we do youth programs? What are the needs of the industry in this new ecosystem is what is going to drive the nation towards what should be our education system and how can we best adopt it. And to do this correctly, we need to be very clear that we need to have something that can absorb uncertainty and incorporate learning fast. If learning does not transition at the speed of which technology is transitioning, at the speed of which global communities are connecting, we will have a serious problem. So the future study was done by the Millennium Project as to what are the future scenarios by 2030. According to them, there will be at best 1 billion jobs that will be with employed people out of the 9 billion people that we will have on the earth. 3 billion will be self-employed, 1 billion will be unemployed, and 1 billion will be in the informal economy. So are we preparing our youth and educating our nation with these factors in mind when we know that this is how the world is going to be and this is what the job scene will be? Today we spend millions of rupees educating our children and they end up with what? A 40,000 rupee job. If you do the maths of how much a parent spends and that too is trying to get into a job, does that really matter? And then you see the skill sets and how people are now working from home. Whoever has the skill set is very happy to position himself as a freelancer, trying to get into that global economy. A country like Philippines is touching 30 billion. We are still at 3 billion. Philippines is touching 30. If you take India, from its IT alone is doing 150 billion US dollars. So the examples are out there. It is now who strives, how hard, and what do we do? So building a nation, and that to an educated nation, will our kids be ready? That is the question. If we look at our education system today, the question is very simple. And I will not go, are they ready or not? What I would say is, we need to understand that intelligence has to be made as the objective of education. Elementary level emphasis has to be given to encourage problem solving because it will always be in that era. We also have to expand understanding of computer sciences. We have to expand STEM education. And we also have to see that how they will do the combination of different skills. Because according to international studies, the total amount of shift that a person would have to do in his skill sets over his lifetime, unlike my generation, where if you got one engineering degree, you were happy to go about it, and life passed, and if you became a doctor, life passed. In your generation, the younger generation, you will have to change that skill set at least 8 times. So you will have to be proficient enough to move and understand and do that. And obviously, in that entrepreneurship, what ethics will you drive? Today, what we see on as content in the internet community is very different to what would be influenced, because if 26% of the global population will be Muslims and 40% will be from Africa and 42% will be from Asia, there will be a dramatic shift in how people look at content. So one skill that we need to encourage in our nation, in our educational institutions, is that we need to understand that even though AI with robotics is going to be a future, but robotics will not be able to have consciousness and how to tackle unpredictability, because the world will see that. And these are 2 factors that, as we call ourselves Ashraful Makhluqat, we will always have as an upper hand. And this is what we need to bear in mind and not get influenced that, it's the human, and it's the human who has to fit into the society, and how do we take that forward. The other thing is that we need to encourage, train, and educate our children from day one on how to be comfortable with unpredictability. Because if you panic, if you feel that unpredictability is not the future norm, then we have a problem. And how do you cultivate that needs to be done with a lot of cultural behavior and with a lot of understanding of different aspects, and how you bring that into your education system. I like this quote, so I'm using it. We have to go into inquiry-based education, because if we do not cultivate within our youth this desire to be wanting to know more and more and more, they will not stay competitive. And that will be the challenge. With the numbers that we've seen, who will be employed, who will be unemployed, who will be self-employed. Most of us will fall in the self-employed or the informal economy. We need to be aware that if this is not the basis of our education, then we have a problem. So the challenges that academia will have is to always be one step ahead. We need the academia to understand future challenges, issues and events. They need to provide ways to think of the future. They need to highlight the need and intention of where the technology is going to be going, what do we need. They need to network and cluster the right kind of people so that the communities flourish in that fashion. Provide exchange ideas and sessions like these, which I must compliment ComStech and all the participating institutions in this. We need to constantly exchange ideas, because it is these ideas that will save future humanity. And then we need to prioritize these issues. The goal has to be simple. Connect the youth, the policymakers, the academia, and the think tanks. Connect their ideas and insights. Bring transparency and data processes. Thanks to technology, blockchain, and others, we can now do things with complete transparency if we have the will. And thanks to Allah Ta'ala that we are all Muslims connected right now. Most of us, every religion, by the way, does this. So we need to be honest. We need to share with humanity. And it is data transparency that will give us how do we share Earth's resources in a transparent manner so that we can keep a balance. And that balance will be what will bring future prosperity. So we need to look at the prospective, policy-related and participative knowledge has to be distributed. We need to understand that we as Pakistan will be the number 5th largest nation. The Muslim world will be 26.4%. So 1/4 of the world will be Muslims. How do we contribute back to humanity in our capacities? That is the learning, that is the knowledge, that is the skill sets, and that's the habits we need to incorporate. And one thing is clear, that online learning is here to stay. It is not going anywhere. And this is where the shift will come. If you look at what is happening today, 49% of the content is video streaming, and it is Western content out there. Once the global shift will change, this content has to become the future thought content. And this is where we need to understand it. The other issue is, how do we use bandwidth and what are we doing? So if you look at the Pakistani community, 47% of Pakistan's bandwidth is used watching Netflix. 47%. Because we do not have IXPs, and we understand the other problem that I feel we need to emphasize on the policymakers at every level is that every household, every kid needs to have a minimum of 100 to 250 megabits of bandwidth available to themselves if they want to stay competitive in the fourth industrial revolution. This is something at policy level that has to be done. If you look at what we are doing today, we all are very happy, but the best bandwidth that we get is about 15.3 megabytes. Where is 100, where is 250, and where is 400? A household in UAE today has 600 MB. So we need to fix our infrastructure if we are to stay competitive. And we also need to fix our electricity if we are to stay competitive. These are two policy issues. If the world wants to see a prosperous Pakistan, and we as Pakistanis and the Muslim world needs to see themselves as prosperous, education will only come through online learning in the future. Skills will be developed constantly at a speed that only online learning can supplement very effectively. That can only happen if you have 24/7 available cheap electricity that will bring the computing on, and then the bandwidth. If the bandwidth is not relevant, we have a problem. And obviously the cost factor. You can see exactly where we stand on the bandwidth, why India does 150 billion and why we are where we are. We are not competitive, therefore we cannot pick up the kind of jobs we need to pick up. And we do not understand the value of data that we're generating. And because we have only one IXP, China has 11. We need to understand, and India has equivalent. We need to understand how we store and distribute locally data, not off the net, off the infrastructure, but content, how it's positioned and where it's positioned is also a very serious factor. Just to show you what is the internet traffic Pakistan had and what is the traffic that we're using off the net. So this is a very alarming situation when it comes to how we educate the nation and position it correctly. Do not fear of ignorance, fear of false knowledge, because it brings all the sorrows of the world. We need to be realistic. We need to understand what is happening around us at every level, and we need to change that. Here is a model that I've been working on for several years, Foresight Lab, where all the historical data, what we know from our history, what we have in our universities, and what we have as our experts, we need to put that together so that with our hindsight knowledge, with our insight skill sets, we can project what is the future that is possible and how we can do course correction in that possible future. And this needs to be done at war footing, because only this will then tell us how to educate the nation for a future prepared, as a future prepared nation. So, in conclusion, the way forward is to improve our understanding of ourselves and each other. We need to create cultural harmony for a civilization of peace. We need to adopt technologies for the greater good and to bring that harmony and prosperity that we can share and be transparent. And obviously, we need to understand that it has to reflect our consciousness. If we call ourselves Muslims, then we have to be true Muslims in being able to share the Earth's resources in a transparent manner most efficiently. And that is something we can do. Thank you very much.